I love the smell of Apple events in the morning. Welcome to Primary Technology, the show about the tech news that matters. Today we have a big preview of Apple's Glowtime event, which is happening Monday, September 9th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Everything you can expect from the iPhone 16, Apple Watch 10, and what we think might be the most interesting things announced at that event. Plus, we have some AI news. Oprah is going to do a special on AI. MKBHD is going to be a guest. And I did a week-long review of the Pixel 9 Pro. We're going to get into that as well. This episode is brought to you by you, the members who support us directly. I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Robles, and joining me, my friend Jason Aten. How's it going, Jason?
Liver this morning, Steven, so my fingers are a little bit sore, but I'm okay. I mean, I know you didn't actually really want to know how I was doing, but I just feel like I should tell you. So
no, well, no, I ask every week. We already talked about this, so I don't even know what do you ask to throw to the co-host.
No, I like it, so I try to come up with something totally not tech related. So
no, that's great. Yeah, that's great.
Actually, it is tech related. Yeah. I'm sorry, but it is.
Oh.
I just wanted you to know the best feature on the iPhone that I discovered today is the zoom feature, like that magnifying glass feature. Try removing a tiny sliver from your hand without that feature. I mean, I didn't just figure it out, but I've never used it before.
Yeah, is this showing our age here? Saying my favorite feature is the magnifying glass.
I'm saying it's practical. What I meant to say is it's the best feature on the iPhone I'd never used before. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, very good. Well, maybe I'll probably use it one day.
I just ruined the whole show.
No, it's good. I'm so excited. There's so much to talk about. I have an exciting bonus topic. Personal tech is going to be the Pixel 9 Pro XL. We have some great 5-star reviews. Look here. I also have my Vision Pro on my desk. I just want you to know, Jason.
Ooh,
look at this.
Mine's right back.
I used it yesterday for the first time, and I want to say I tried this thing because I saw somebody post about it. It's this fancy pressure reducing head strap that actually slides onto the Vision Pro. And it actually makes it more comfortable, and so I might actually use it now. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, yeah, it's on Amazon. I'll put a link somewhere. But okay,
was comfort was the reason you weren't using the Vision Pro? It was just the comfort. That was the only reason.
I mean, there were several reasons: lack of content, don't like working.
You solved one of the problems. Is all I'm saying.
I solved one of the problems. We have two wonderful 5-star reviews. Don Coven from Canada, who said, pencil away from volume, battery percentage on. We'll forgive you, Don. And he said with the battery percentage, I'm not guessing like a fool when the actual information is available to me. All right, Don.
I feel like that is the best quote on this podcast so far.
That was pretty funny. I'll give him that. Then also Jeff Hunt 206 from the USA. Don Coven was from Canada, by the way. Jeff Hunt 206, he left us a 5-star review. You get a shout out if you leave us a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts. So that's why we're reading these off. He said battery percentage off, Apple Pencil tipped towards the volume buttons, which, thank you. But he said, we talked about Vertu phones on the last episode, Jason, which many people had not heard of before.
Including me.
Including you, which are the luxury phones that are just crazy expensive, and I don't know why they exist. Well, Jeff told us that he actually got a Vertu phone from his work. It was a work phone from one of his jobs, and it includes a dedicated concierge service that you can activate by pressing a side button. It's basically like a voice assistant that you can use to charter private planes and make hotel reservations. And then at the end of his review, he said, but my personal iPhone is an iPhone 13 mini, as it's the best iPhone.
Which doesn't even have an action button, but okay.
Well, he's got the action button on his Vertu.
If you could program the action button to be a person. I mean, I guess you could just set up a Siri shortcut to call the Amex's Platinum Card Concierge or something.
I mean, maybe you live in this world, but I don't know if there's like apps to book private planes, but maybe they have shortcuts actions available to you. I don't know. Just make the action button a private plane reservation button. Gotta go.
What could go wrong? You just accidentally just push it constantly, and jets are flying over your house.
Pilots. Anyway, so thank you for those 5-star reviews. And one last housekeeping thing before we get to the Apple event. Our St. Jude fundraiser last week talked about how the whole month of September we're going to be talking about St. Jude. This link will be in the show notes. We want you to continue to donate, but we crossed our goal. Less than a week, we crossed over our $1,000 goal for giving to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. Amazing. A small but mighty group of Primary Tech listeners have donated, including Jason and myself. Jason, if you go to the page, which I'm showing now if you're watching on YouTube, Jason is the anonymous one right here under me.
I don't know how websites work, Stephen. It's very complicated. I've never bought something online before, so I had a hard time with the place where you put your name. So
Jason was so wanting to make sure that I knew he donated. He sent me his receipt in a text message.
listen, I thought it would be really bad look if we're encouraging our listeners to donate and then only one of the hosts donated. But it was very confusing. I'm sorry that
It's a lot of.
I feel like you should take my tech podcast card away from me. But
oh no, it's fine. It's fine. No, it's wonderful. We crossed the 1,000 mark, so thank you to everyone. One anonymous donor gave $500, which really helped us cross the mark, which is amazing. Thank you to whoever did that. And if you look at the Relay.fm leaderboard, Primary Tech Show's on there, which is awesome.
Nice.
And so you can see us right here. Again, I'll put this link in the show notes. But just because we crossed our goal doesn't mean you can't still give. And so the whole fundraiser is going on through the month of September. Relay.fm usually does a big final live stream for the fundraiser, doing kind of a last big push. So I would continue to ask you, if you have not donated $10, $5, whatever you can, to St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. It's an incredible cause. And so would love to see Primary Tech Show give even more throughout this month. So thank you to everyone who gave, and thank you, Jason, for being anonymous. Appreciate it.
I'm trying. We just ruined my whole plan, but it's fine.
No, all good. It's all good. All right. We're days away from the next Apple event, September 9th, 1 p.m. It's going to be a live stream. We're expecting iPhone 16, new Apple Watch, new AirPods. There's been a bunch of rumors. I said we would cover the rumor roundup closer to the event, and so that's what we're going to do today. But I do want to say we're going to do a special live stream episode. Jason and I actually discussed before we started recording today that we're going to do a live stream. And so 5 p.m. Eastern on Monday after the event, tune in. I'll put the link in the community and also in the show notes below, the YouTube link to watch live. And we're going to do a live stream. It'll be our second, right? Second live stream recap. We did one after the iPad.
We only did one live stream. Yeah, the one from Dub we didn't live stream. We just recorded it from Apple Part,
From Apple Studios, Podcast Studios. So this will be our second live event. Tune in. Again, all the links will be in the show notes and in the community, social.primarytech.fm. So we'd love for you to join us live, and we will recap everything that's announced. But what might be announced, Jason? Let's take a look. I'm gonna run down the rumors to see what can we expect, what's likely. And then, we'll go back and talk. This is a great article from 9 to 5 Mac. Link is in the show notes if you kind of just want to read down everything that's expected. One of the big features is a additional capture button on the Pro phones, maybe on the 16 as well, specifically for the camera. So this would be an additional button below the sleep button. So now we'll basically have 5 buttons on the side of the phone. We have the sleep button, you have the action button on the Pros, the volumes, and then this capture button will live under the sleep button and act as a shutter. And it might be half pressed down to focus, like DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. And, okay, that's cool. So capture button might be there. Thinner bezels, as, every iPhone, we have thinner bezels. New colors for the Pro models, including this interesting gold-brown color. We're going to come back to that. I want to know what color you might choose, Jason, once pre-orders go live. The 5X camera, that Tetra Prism camera, should be coming to the iPhone 16 Pro, not just on the Pro Max. Several sources on that. Of course, Apple Intelligence will be a big part of the event. Brighter display, Wi-Fi 7 support, which if you didn't know, the current 15 Pro is Wi-Fi 6E, and he's smirking already because he's going to say nobody cares about Wi-Fi 7, but I care. I care about Wi-Fi 7 because I have a Wi-Fi 7 router that I'm going to test this iPhone with and see how fast my Wi-Fi is. Faster charging, which is also up my alley. We might go up to 40 watts charging speed when wired and 20 watts MagSafe charging. So that's interesting, faster charging. New 48 megapixel ultra-wide camera. So right now on the iPhone 15 Pro and Pro Max, the main camera, and on the regular 15, right, Jason, is also 48 megapixels. You just don't get Pro RAW and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So there's a 48 megapixel camera as the main lens on the 15 Pro and Pro Max, also on the 14 Pro. But the ultra-wide will also go up to 48 megapixels, which will still leave the telephoto and the front-facing camera at the 12 megapixel resolution, but down the road, which Pixel 9 Pro XL, nice having 48 megapixel front-facing camera, just saying. A bigger battery, A18 Pro chip, of course, talking about colors again, 3K slow-mo video, which I don't record a lot of slow-mo video, but supposedly that it'll go up to 3K resolution, not 4K just yet. And that's because if you wanted to do 120 frames per second slow-mo. It actually drops down to 1080p right now, even on the 15 Pro and Pro Max. The weirdest feelings I have is larger screens. I don't know how I feel about this. Larger screens. They're going to increase in size, supposedly. A new camera layout where the 16 will go to the vertically aligned cameras like they were on the iPhone 12, I believe, and maybe the 13. And then on the regular ones that just have two lenses, they'll be aligned vertically. Software change will be JPEG XL support in addition to things like ProRAW formats for pictures. And I think that's all we have. That's the list of what we might see for the iPhone specifically. We'll get to Apple Watch and AirPods in a second. But Jason, what feature are you most excited about?
Well, it's, not Wi-Fi 7, which is a surprise.
Listen.
We'll talk about it.
So fast. It's going to be so fast.
Okay. I'll ask you questions about that in a minute. But I think that the camera button is a legitimately cool addition. Yeah. People are talking about, like, how many buttons are they going to put on the side of it? Like, Apple actually does buttons pretty well. I don't think the number of buttons is really going to be the concern here because they do that pretty well. I don't think it's certainly not going to be as bad as when they moved to the current 3 camera system and people like were being triggered by like falling into a black hole or whatever. And so it's something like that. Yeah. Fear of apparently multiple cameras
fear
in the
many
back of a phone. Okay. Is that what it is? I don't know.
The Mac Pro is what triggered everybody's trypophobia. Apparently.
That's true.
Which I had not heard of until then.
It is weird that the industrial design is the thing that's introducing us to all of these unique sort of phobias. But I think that the camera button, and again, you and I have talked a couple times about like, well, how do we feel about rumors? And these do seem like we've heard them consistently enough that probably they're going to be true. The thing to me, other than just the fact that there's going to be a camera button, is that apparently it's not just hit this button, like, so because I have the action button right now set up to launch the camera because it's the thing I do the most with my phone. So it's like I can just quickly grab that, open the camera, and then I can take a photo. This happens for me a lot if I'm at like sporting events for my kids and that kind of stuff, and so I really like that. But now the camera button itself will, I guess, allow you to like zoom in and out by sliding up and down on it, and to focus by doing like a half press, which is what you can do on like a DSLR or a mirrorless camera. I actually think that's more interesting because the action button, all it does is launch the camera and take a photo, or I guess you could record a video if you hold it down. It doesn't give you any of the other camera features. And I would argue that every time someone says to me, hey, why can't I get good photos with my camera? If they have a 15 Pro or Pro Max, I tell them you should set the action button to be York shutter, because it's so much better to have a physical button to take photos than it is to try to be like holding the camera and tapping on the display.
And maybe this doesn't bother anybody, but like if you were to use the action button now, I'm holding my phone up if you're watching on YouTube, like the camera orientation is not just typically how I would hold the phone to take the picture. Like typically when I take a picture, I would like the cameras, as I'm looking at it, upper left. If you're looking at me, the upper right. And so having that capture button right here, I think naturally comports with at least how I do it. And I think how a lot of people, I see most people hold their phone like this. They rotate it 90 degrees to the left as they're holding their phone and then take a picture. So
are you not able to use your right forefinger though to take a picture? Like, it works really well.
But this way, look at my thumb. For those listening, if you hold your phone where the cameras are on the bottom edge of the phone, then there is a chance you obscure a lens with like a thumb. Now, I know you're a photographer, Jason.
Yeah, why would you do that? I don't understand.
I know you're not doing that.
This feels like another one of those, you're creating a problem that doesn't have to exist in your life.
No, because
just turn the phone over, rotate it. It's
the
so
chance
easy.
of this happening is not zero. This is a non-zero. Look at this. I can cover all 3 camera lenses with my phone, with my thumb, holding it that way. But you hold it this way with the capture button, I think people are more naturally inclined to not obscure a lens. And I think just
the action button, it's right there. Right here is the action button.
Yeah, but I have that program to skip forward 3 minutes when listening to podcasts, and that's important to me. that's what I have it programmed to.
That is the most inefficient waste of a cool piece of technology.
No, I use it all the time. I save so many minutes, so many hours a week.
Wait, hold on.
Skipping ads.
You think you're saving a lot of time, but really on mine, it's like you can set in Pocket Cast that interval, right? Can't you tell it to make that skip forward more than 30 seconds? And even if you couldn't, just hit it 3 times, 4 times.
But it's so much faster just to reach up and hold that action button, especially in the car. So that's all I'm saying. The other thing, too, is when you hold the phone, the controls for switching from video to photo or to change your lenses from like 1x to 5x, they're on the right side of the phone. Like that doesn't change. And so typically, like when I'm changing those, like, you know, you might poke at it with a finger or whatever, but if you're just using your thumb to like swipe up and down or tap a lens, like I'm covering the lenses, like right, you know, your hand's right in front of it. Do that here, no problem. Bada bing, bada boom. So
right, and so everything you said is true. I would just argue you should be holding the phone the other way regardless.
You think you're supposed to hold it with the like this, where the cameras are on the lower edge?
No. I'm saying that if you're taking photos, you should be holding it like this. You know, you should be holding it so that you can hold it like this and take the picture with the button. It's right there.
Anyway, the capture button is going to solve all this, Jason, because it'll be in the right place to hold the phone in the right orientation.
Well, what's funny about that is it literally will be in the same spot. Like it'll be on the top right if you're holding your phone, and then you'll have the action button on the top right if you want to hold it the other way.
Right,
so,
right.
Anyway.
But anyway, I didn't think we were going to talk about the button this much.
I know. I'm sorry.
No.
We diagnosed.
Well, you're a photographer in a
technical.
So. No, I get it.
So anyway, the camera button's one. I think it's great that they're going to bring the 5X down to the Pro, as opposed to just the Pro Max, because I would argue that the 48 megapixel was a pretty big improvement because it gave you a lot more flexibility in the main camera, and being able to shoot 48 megapixel RAW or the 48 megapixel HEIF. That's great. I would argue though that the 5X telephoto, tetraprism, whatever lens that's currently on the 5X is one of the biggest step up in camera quality from the iPhone, because in the past when you had a 2 or 3X optical zoom, whatever, it was not good. It was actually pretty bad. Even on the 14 Pro, the 3X is not good. The 5X is like, it's limited in the fact that you have to be out in pretty, like it's better if you're outside and very light during the day. It's not great at night mode or any of that kind of stuff. But I think that having that on, moving that down to the Pros is going to be a big improvement for a lot of people. I don't like when they do this thing where they put a camera feature on the big one and then they move it down. I feel like I don't know if because they did that with the image stabilization 2 years ago, maybe it was, and it's like I feel like there's no reason to do that, because people generally, other than you and I, are not buying Pro versus Pro Max for camera features. They're buying it for screen size, and I feel like you should take away the number of variables you have to decide upon to buy a thing. And so I think that's good that they're bringing that camera on.
Same, and I was going to be on the fence then, because I had been a Pro size phone person for years. Like I used the 13 Pro, the 14 Pro, and only went to the Pro Max on the 15 because of the 5X camera. And people have very different opinions on this. People seemingly preferred the 3X zoom distance on their 14 Pro and Pro Max, and they'd actually preferred over the 5X. I just disagree. I actually did a whole video on the 5X camera, and I have found in the last year, like, it just works so well and looks so good. Like, these are pictures taken both with the main camera lens and the 5X lens, and whether it's photos or video, and even in low light, there were many times where I took video in like an auditorium for concerts and dance and stuff, outside, like for skateboard videos and such. Like the 5X camera has just been really, really good. Like this is another one in one of my wife's concerts. If you're watching on YouTube, I have like the regular camera and the 5X, and it looks really good. And so I do think 5X is great. I thought when it came back to the regular Pro size, I would go back down to the smaller screen size. But I think I'm going to stick with the Pro Max now. I think I'm used to it. I like the bigger screen. I'm just used to it now. I feel like I'm just gonna do it. I feel like going back to a normal size, I don't know, might feel a little cramped on it. Because you're a Pro Max person, right? Like you do the Pro Max.
Yeah, but I will 100% go back to the Pro if they.
You are.
If they move that,
you're gonna go to the smaller size.
If they have the 5X on it, I should say, we don't know if there's any of these other features that could potentially be different between the two. Right? It's still possible that there is going to be something. If Wi-Fi 7 is only on the Pro Max because that's the only place they can stick that big old antenna in there, I still won't buy it. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Right,
but if there is a reason, I don't know. I'm saying it's conceivable that there could still be some sort of a differentiation between the two. But if all things are equal, I will definitely go back to just the Pro version.
Interesting.
And you talked about the larger screen size, and I was going to ask you if you were going to stick with the bigger size, if a bigger size is even bigger. But if I do think it's important, the thinner bezels and the screen size, they go really together, because I bet that the overall form factor will be real close, like within millimeters. Right. I think the screen will just take up more of the body of the phone.
I agree. So that's again one of the reasons why I'll probably stick with the larger size. And can I just say, the other day I saw someone, they had their phone face down on like a chair or whatever, and it made me sad inside. I saw their camera bump, and I saw that the camera bump was slightly larger on the case than the actual phone. And that basically means they must have gotten a 15 Pro case and put it on a 14 Pro, or it might be a 14 or 15 Pro case on a 13 Pro phone, because I think that's when the camera mesa got bigger. And I'm like, don't do that, because the buttons are even misaligned. Like you get weird, like the volume buttons aren't exact, and so it made me sad inside.
I mean, it's also possible that they just bought the $7 case on Amazon that wasn't actually that was advertised. Like they went on Amazon and they typed it in, and they were like 13 Pro, 14 Pro, 15 Pro, leather case with
220, 221, whatever it takes.
The names are just like garbage. You have no idea what you're actually buying on Amazon, which is a totally different topic we should talk about sometime, but not today. Yeah, the other thing, the faster charging is fine. Like I don't ever suffer from my phone doesn't charge fast enough unless I plug it into one of those old 5-watt chargers, but that's on me, right? Like we have a the first thing I did when we bought our house is in the kitchen on the counter where we charge our devices. I replaced that outlet with one that has one normal AC plug and then 2 USB-As, and those 2 USB-As are only 5 watts each. So like that, if you plug it in there, it's never gonna it's actually faster to put it onto the Nomad wireless pad that we have sitting there. That charges way faster than plugging it into those. So faster charging is great. I mean, isn't there a phone that came out recently that the thing is, or no, somebody came up with a charger that'll charge at 300 watts or something like that? I think
MKBHD showed it. I think it was 240 or something, wirelessly too, or something ridiculous. That battery health is going to be 5% in a month if you're charging it every day.
I mean, unless you are really cold and you can't afford to pay for gasoline anymore, for heating your house, I would not charge a device at 300 watts wirelessly, because you are going to have a problem. If you're literally
in the movie The Day After Tomorrow and you need something to heat a house,
exactly,
get that phone. Yeah. Which, thank you for reminding me. I meant to say this at the beginning, but I do have a surprise for you, although UPS ruined the surprise. And so I talked about a couple weeks ago that when we talked about 3-in-1 charging versus charging with cables, I wanted Jason to try a 3-in-1. And so you should have something. Honestly, it's arriving Monday at the event, which we won't spend time talking about it Monday.
Wait, it's arriving at the event?
No, it's arriving the same day.
Oh, okay.
Tim Cook is going to hand deliver your 3-in-1 charger. No, UPS is going to deliver.
I think that's amazing.
So we're going to get Jason's thoughts on 3-in-1 chargers probably next week at our regularly scheduled episode. But that's coming. It's coming to you. Okay. UPS.
I think the other one obviously is the Apple Intelligence rollout. I think it'll be really interesting to see how they talk about it. I think that it'll be there's been questions. Will they continue to limit it to the Pro? No, every phone that comes, everything Apple makes that comes out from now on, with the exception of the HomePods, will have the ability to run Apple Intelligence. I don't think that because they want, this is so important to them that this be available to everyone. This is not a feature where they're like, well, we'll just limit it so that people will upgrade. Nope, that's not how this works. That's not the strategy here. They want this. And the way that's true is that they went all the way back to the M1, right? You can use it on an M1. And you can use it on an M1 iPad. You can use it on an M1 Mac. They're trying to make this as available as possible. So it's a bummer that the 15 Pro versions, don't have Apple Intelligence. But we know that the reason for that is just the memory, right? And so...
Right. Yeah. And this will probably be a good impetus for a upgrade cycle for people if Apple really continues to push on Apple Intelligence, which I'm always impressed. They advertise on TikTok for their events. If I open TikTok, or if anybody does today, the first thing you see is the Glowtime logo and says there's an Apple event on Monday. Pretty wild. They really push it. So, and I think the Apple Intelligence will be a huge push. I'm curious because Apple Intelligence is an 18.1 feature, not 18.0. I imagine when the phones launch announced next week, I think pre-orders are going to be Friday. Do you think pre-orders are Friday?
I mean, they usually are.
The event is a day early, so people were pontificating like maybe pre-orders on Thursday. No, I think pre-orders.
No, the pre-orders are not 4 days after the event. The pre-orders are on Friday. The event just moved because of the presidential debate. The two things are not related in any way.
But do you think, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, do you think that Apple Watch and AirPods pre-orders will also be on Friday, or will one of those be like pre-order today? Because Apple has done things like that where you can like pre-order the AirPods or whatever right after the event. Sometimes even the Apple Watch, I feel like. But maybe that was when it was not in the iPhone event that weird year. But anyway, do you think everything pre-order on Friday? Do you think some will be pre-order immediately after the event?
So I want to just like make a distinction for people listening, just to be clear. So a pre-order is when you can buy a thing and it will ship to you some period of time later. Right. So that's what they do with the phone. You pre-order them on Friday. They ship to arrive at your house the following Friday or whatever it is. I would think that the AirPods, you'll just be able to buy them. I don't think that there's going to be you don't need to Well, have they ever pre-ordered AirPods before?
That's a good question.
They might just be like on sale Friday or on sale now or something like that. I don't think that and I actually don't know for sure because it's not a thing I've ever really done. Do you have to pre-order watches? I don't even remember for sure if you pre-order. That's more likely in my mind. You have to pre-order a watch. So, okay.
Yeah, the watches you've had to pre-order.
Okay.
And those will come typically the same day as the iPhone. And the pre-orders typically are the same day. Like the pre-orders open the same day as the iPhone. There was that one weird year where the Apple Watch was announced first because I think it was the iPhone 12 was announced in October. Like one of those.
It was COVID.
Yeah, it was the COVID. Yeah. And so that time it was different. But yeah, usually I think I like that theory though. I think AirPods, you just buy it. I think it will probably not come until the iPhone launch day. I still feel like everything will arrive Friday, whatever that is, the 13th. No, the 20th. So the event is on September 9th. Pre-orders would open September 13th, a Friday, and typically delivery of those pre-orders is the next Friday, which is September 20th. So I still think everything's probably going to come on the 20th, AirPods, Apple Watch, and iPhone, where you could actually walk into a store and get it. And if you do the pre-orders early enough that you get them on that day, but that you can order the AirPods on Monday, everything else, Watch and iPhone 16 pre-orders on Friday. That's my prediction.
Okay. Well, and I just wanted to just make the distinction that Apple usually says one of three things. You can get it now.
Right.
You can pre-order it starting this date, or it'll be available to buy starting this date, but there's not necessarily a pre-order. And I think Apple or AirPods are, I think, I could be completely wrong. Somebody who's listening to this who knows, please let us know. But that AirPods are typically, you can buy it either now or on this date. You don't need to pre-order a pair of AirPods. So anyway.
For sure. So you said Apple Intelligence, the other big deal, rolling out to all the phones.
Yeah.
So 18.1, do you think October, November? Because it's going to ship with 18.0. That'll be the OS. And then they'll have to say Apple Intelligence coming next month. Will they say October?
I wonder if the distinction, we typically think of 18.1, like a .1 as being the next, like it's an update to the operating system. But in this case, there are going to be a lot of iPhones that can run 18. But when they update to 18.1, we'll be getting no new Apple Intelligence features. Right. So I feel like it's almost like 18.1 is essentially like iOS 18b. Like it's like there's this fork, right? Because there are these features, and I don't know. I mean, are there 18.1 features that the iPhone 15 will be able to run at this point?
Well, so one of the things that, you could do like all the messages features, things in Safari. There'll be those kind of features. And one feature I actually popped up, and I thought it was an 18.1, was in the Journal app. You can set the default now that when a new moment is created to default to the moment date instead of the current date, which is what I always want when I put something in the journal. And so that's a new setting. I thought it was 18.1 specific, and then someone on Threads said they actually see it in their 18.0 public beta. Okay. So it does seem like a lot of the features that are not Apple Intelligence will be in 18.0 as well. Right. And it's really just Apple Intelligence that's 18.1. So
yeah. So I think that would indicate that it'll be sooner rather than later, because really what they're doing is 18 is for everyone. 18.1 will just be the devices that can run Apple Intelligence, which will be all the new ones, plus the 15 Pro and Pro Max. I think we'll see it in October at the latest. I wouldn't even be surprised if, I don't know. I think there is a scenario where they're both available the same day, potentially, because,
Interesting.
well, because what are the 16s going to ship with? Are they shipping with 18 or are they going to ship with 18.1?
It depends how big of an Apple Intelligence, how big of a deal that is during the event, where they want to say, like, you can use Apple Intelligence on these phones from day one.
Right.
And then it's just confusing. Like, I don't know what 18.0 is going to, does it just go away? Because there's been no public beta of 18.1 either. Like, it's just the dev beta.
That's true.
And so I'm not sure there. I don't think it's going to be simultaneously, but I do think it'll either be the end of September or the latest October that we'll see 18.1 roll out to everyone.
Well, but Steven, think about it. Why would you have a public beta of a feature that it can only run on a subset of your devices? Because you're just asking a lot of people to install it and be disappointed because they're like, "What's different about it? What am I doing? There's nothing different." And we joke, and I think that the Pro version, someone once told me, are the best-selling iPhones because of the cameras, probably. Right. But I feel like I see a lot of not Pro iPhones in the world. In fact, I think I see a lot more not Pro iPhones, whether that's 15, 14, 13, whatever, than I see Pros.
You know, my wife uses a regular 15 non-Pro just because she really doesn't want any of the features, like cares for it. And she's like, yeah, whatever. Like, so for a lot of people, and it is cheaper, you know, it's significantly cheaper in some regards, depending on what model you're getting. And like the aftermarket for iPhones is huge. You know, you could buy an iPhone 13 on Amazon for like a few $100s,
right?
For $400 or $500. So, but anyway.
So I just think that that's the reason why I think we'll see it sooner rather than later. And really the question for me will be, and this is, I think, the thing most people will care about is, when do we see the actual better dingus? Like, you know, when is it going to be better? I tried real hard to not say the word that we're apparently not allowed to say.
Oh, I didn't even know what you were talking about at first. You're talking about...
when will we get a better Voldemort on our phones?
You're talking about the voice assistant that we will not name. Those will not name,
Because that's, I think, what most people care about. Like, most people care about, like, being able to say to the voice assistant, hey, iPhone, whatever, and have it do it. And, like, I've had this, like, experience several times recently where I thought it would just be so great to just ask it a question, and it just doesn't do it.
And get an answer?
It just doesn't do it. I mean, literally, the thing I did before we started recording is the only thing I can use it for, which was to set myself a reminder to buy a cloud lifter later today.
That was one of the things, as I was reviewing the Pixel 9 Pro, I was like, Gemini's on this thing. I should probably try it and use it, but I'm so not in the habit of ever using the voice assistant on my iPhone. I just never naturally ask it anything. Like, I just didn't ask Gemini anything because I was like, I don't. Right. I yell at my HomePods goodnight in the evening because it does set that scene semi-consistently, and that's it. Like, that's all I tell my HomePods.
Yeah.
Good night.
Yep.
And setting up video scenes here in the studio. But, all right, so the 5X on the regular Pro and Apple Intelligence, those are your two big, that's the thing.
I mean, the camera button, the 5X, and then the Apple Intelligence. When I look at that,
did you see those balloons? Did you see those balloons just now?
I was not. I had something in front of you. Did you? You got hand gestures turned on? What do you?
I did too. I did the number 2
later.
Because I was recording with Nate yesterday, and I was trying to show him some of.
I did see the thumbs up you did earlier. The bubble thumbs up.
Yeah. I got to turn this off immediately. Anyway, sorry for. I apologize for the balloons, everyone. If you're watching on YouTube, I meant to say 2 features, and apparently that peace sign has balloons. Has a back reaction.
Anyway, so what about you? What do you think about some of these potential updated features?
The 5X Pro and the capture button, those are great. You know, I'm very curious how the capture button works into everyday life. Larger screen size, smaller bezels, all great. Like you said, Apple Intelligence. The faster charging, I am curious if there's any like real world use case, because there are times when battery is low, maybe you're at a conference, maybe you're traveling. And if you can plug in your iPhone and get more battery in a shorter time, like, that's always good. Will it be noticeable? You know, I think the fast charging on the Apple Watch, when that launched, was noticeable, and it, like, just quality of life improvement. And so we'll see how it goes from, like, right now it's 27 watts if you plug in your iPhone 15, but 40 watts, you know, it's more wattage. We'll see. And also the fast charging, I'm curious how that 20 watts MagSafe charging, if that is a Qi 2 thing, like, will any Qi 2 charger be able to support 20 watts now? Because they all just say 15 watts. or is it something that will have to be a proprietary thing in Apple's MagSafe chargers? Like they're going to have some specific partners like Belkin. So I'm very curious about the 20-watt charging speed, because if you watch my channel at all, you know I'm very into Qi 2 and charging speeds. And so
you're just mostly into speed.
You know what? I think that is it. I drive a 2011 Kia Soul, but when it comes to charging and Wi-Fi, speed is my game. But anyway, so I'm just more curious what the wireless charging story will be. But Wi-Fi 7, like in all honesty, it's not going to make a difference for most people. Here's the thing, just to nerd out for a second. Wi-Fi 6E, which is on the current iPhone 15 Pros at least, and I think on the regular 15s, Wi-Fi 6E already introduced the higher frequency spectrum, which is 6 gigahertz. So Wi-Fi 6E has 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz for like that tri-band speeds. And so honestly, Wi-Fi 7 does not introduce a new spectrum. Like it is still just 2.4, 5, and 6 gigahertz. There is like better like number of device support and some like other data that I think that's not really super meaningful to most people's Wi-Fi speeds. So I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. Like I tested my 15 Pro Max with the Eero 7 Wi-Fi routers, and I was able to get like over a gig down on Wi-Fi, which is awesome. You can't have any obstructions between your phone and the Wi-Fi router, and you need to be pretty close. Like as soon as I went like one room over, it dropped down to like 100. So, I mean, we're still a long way from it being like meaningful super fast speeds, but at least it's future-proofing. It's great. And I will throw in one other possibility here. This is not a rumor that it's coming to the 16s, but Bluetooth 6.0 was recently announced. And Apple's slow to adopt these wireless standards. So, like, again, this might be the iPhone 17 next year. But Bluetooth 6.0 comes with true distance awareness. This is another 9 to 5 Mac article. I'll put the link in the show notes. But the reason why this is exciting is because, well, the quote here is centimeter level accuracy over considerable distances. Bluetooth is not really capable of that right now. And there are devices that, quote unquote, support Find My, but do not have the ultra wide chip. And I think the biggest example here is, I'm going to hold this up, the Apple TV remote, the newest one. It supposedly has, with the biggest air quotes, Find My support. And because this is Bluetooth, I think 5, when you do Find My from your phone, it will tell you like how far away it is and might give you a general distance direction, although most of the time I do not get that. It's usually just like, it's 15 feet away. Good luck trying to find it. And also the Apple TV remote can't make any sound. So
which, by the way, is the single thing they should fix to solve all of this problem. Has nothing to do with Bluetooth. Let's be honest. Just put a tiny speaker. If you can put it, you can put it in that thing.
Exactly. And also, even just regular Apple devices like your Mac, your iPad, like especially if it doesn't have GPS, like you can do Find My and it will have like a general location, but you can't do the precision tracking that you see with AirTag. And honestly, the only 2 Apple devices that has that precision tracking where there's like arrow on screen pointing you in a direction is an AirTag and the AirPods Pro 2.5, like the newest model.
The USB version, yep.
The USB-C version.
USB version, yep.
So those are the only 2 Apple products that have it built in, and the solution is, I guess you could put an AirTag everywhere. But Bluetooth 6.0, if it does offer that centimeter level accuracy where it can tell you your Apple TV remote is 15 feet that direction, and Apple just put a speaker in it so we can make it chime, then it would make Find My way more useful across all the devices for finding your Macs, for finding your iPads, all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited about Bluetooth 6.0. I don't know if we'll see it at this event, but it looks like that'll be coming and should improve the whole Find My network as a whole.
I agree. Stephen, I do think there's one more thing we have to talk about.
Yes.
It is the poop emoji color that they're talking about introducing on these devices.
I got to show Fernando Silva again. Here's Fernando Silva, friend of the show. Hey, Fernando. He's holding up the gold iPhone. Now, I just want to say this, and then I want to hear like your thoughts on it. Mark Gurman is over here. He's like, not a humble brag, but he says, I think the new iPhone 16 Pro Gold is going to be the standout color this year. He says it looks impressive and not terrible like the early renders. Like he's alluding to that he has seen this gold iPhone because he says it looks impressive. And then Chance Miller says, send me a pic of it. It's just hilarious. I asked too, I was like, yeah, well, let's see it. Pictures of it didn't happen. So Gurman's over here saying it looks impressive. Some people are saying it's more brown. Some people saying more gold. But, as Pro phones go, we typically do not get nice colors. We typically get one, like, slightly not gray color every year. But, yeah, poop brown color. What do you think, Jason? You going
So I've heard that apparently the color they're talking about is, like, the trend color for this year. What is the Pantone trend color this year? I don't know.
I'll look it up. Good.
Okay, so I feel like I would not be interested in this at all. I don't know if that's the case that, like, people I know. I like the natural titanium. I actually think that it's one of the better, because it used to be that if you wanted a phone that had basically the silver rails in the past, you had to get white, right? And I thought white was great for quite a while, but I personally think that they should put more color. I don't think that this particular color is the one, but Apple does do this, right? They do tend to, like, introduce these, like, trendy colors just for the sake of, like, following whatever that trend is, although it's usually not the Pro version, and it usually comes like 5 months later or something like that.
Mid-cycle.
So I don't really understand.
This is the Pantone color of the year, which, listeners and viewers, if you didn't know, Pantone, which makes, like, I guess they don't.
It's
make
a color
colors.
matching. Like, they basically formulate colors so that for ink, so that you can know that if you're looking at a swatch and you have it printed, you can specify a Pantone color and have it be spot colored like that.
So the color of the year is Peach Fuzz 13-1023, which is airing towards that goldish. I mean, it says Peach Fuzz and, gold. So maybe if it appears lighter, I will just say last year I got the blue titanium because I thought I was getting the cool color. I was wrong. I should have gotten the natural titanium, and I'll probably get that this year.
Okay, Steven, I sent you a link, and it has the 2025 color palette.
I see.
This is the color. This is the color we're looking for, right there.
This looks very
first one.
This looks not gold. This is.
Scroll down just a little bit you can see another. There's another swatch if you go to the
there
you go,
it
right
is.
there.
Spring 2025 color palette. Interesting. Brand 17-1336, a very warm, rooted, earthy kind of brown. Bran, which is the name of the color, plays into the idea of seasonless, Eisman said. Interesting.
I think they'll come up with a different name because I do not think bran is like bran muffin. Like, I don't think that is the thing that the metaphor that Apple is going to go with. No. But
my dad literally used to eat bran out of a jar, like straight.
I understand. But I think there will probably be a lot of people that think that this is very cool, and a lot of them will post pictures on Instagram, and they'll get lots of engagement for it. And I will just buy a natural titanium one. Like, that's probably it.
I will probably go natural titanium because I missed a whole year with it. I wanted a year with natural titanium. I regretted it the week after I got this one. I mean, the blue is nice. Like, it looks okay in certain colors and whatever. I put a case on it most of the time anyways. But the natural titanium, that looked good, and I missed it.
Yeah.
Jeez, I can't believe we've talked for 40 minutes about the iPhone that doesn't even exist yet. It's amazing. Just time flew by.
There's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. So real quick, the other things we're expecting for the event, AirPods 4, which will be kind of a hybrid between the AirPods now and AirPods Pro. Noise canceling should be in this new design. Also the H2 chip, such and such. So new AirPods. I love my AirPods Pro 2.5, the USB-C version. But I will say the AirPods 3, the shape was a little weird. People, struggle with the comfort sometimes, but they did sound very good. And so of course, I'll be getting a pair just to try them out. But do you have any reason to get these, or does anyone in your family prefer these?
So if I understand, because they're talking about there's going to be two models, and I wonder if essentially what they're going to do is because you can buy the 2, you can buy the 3. They have very different form factors. Are we really just updating both of those, but now unifying the branding of them as these are the AirPods 4? Like, is this an actual change? Because I think the report is that they want to have, low, medium, good, better, best. Is what I'm trying to say. And so, like, they're going to keep some of the feet. There's no way that there's only like. Some people don't like the form factor of the AirPods 3, like you said.
Right.
So I mostly see people either wearing AirPods Pro or AirPods 1/2. It's hard to tell the difference between those two. They're basically the same. So I can't imagine they're going to eliminate the form factor of AirPods 2 because there are a lot of people who do not like the
The
AirPods 3
bulbous
form factor. Yeah. And if you do like that, you probably want the Pro anyway because they fit in your ear better because they at least have the silicone tips. So I don't really know what to think about this at this point. I think it would make sense for them to just call them AirPods and call them AirPods like AirPods Air. You can't call it that, but you can call it AirPods
AirPods
something else.
Air. That's what it is.
There's got to be something.
It's the AirPods Air.
But I think it would make more sense to people if it's like we have AirPods, we have something else AirPods, and then we have AirPods Pro, right? I don't know what goes in between the two because it is usually Air, and it does feel a little bit redundant to stick that at the end of it. I don't know. So I don't know if this is like there's some feature changes here, but also it does feel like maybe it's supposed to be a rationalization of the branding because it's weird that it's like AirPods 2 and 3 are essentially not different generations necessarily. I mean, I know they technically are, but they like coexist alongside of each other because they serve different purposes.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious what the story is like you are and how to differentiate it between AirPods Pro, which are frequently on sale for $200, and the AirPods 3, which are like $160, $170, and it's like this is barely any price difference. But so that and the next version of the Apple Watch, supposedly a refreshed Ultra, so an Apple Watch Ultra 3. Have not really heard any rumors about what that might be. I mean, faster chip. I don't even know. Curious what the blood oxygen sensor story is going to be, because if you buy an Apple Watch Series 9 or Ultra 2 right now, the blood oxygen sensor is disabled because of that lawsuit from Massimo over the patent for the blood oxygen sensor. So curious if that will be any part, like will they say anything? Like, we have a brand new blood oxygen sensor, not made by Massimo. So now you can get it and it works. But refreshed Ultra 3 and then the Series 10 Apple Watch, which should be a maybe slimmer design. We might get the larger screen size in the series. So the Apple Watch Ultra right now is the 49 millimeter face, the biggest face. There's some rumors that we'll get that in the Series 10 as well. So you can get like, 42, 45, 49, or 43, 45, 49. And you might have those sizes. So we'll see that. iPhone, Apple Watch, AirPods.
I think it's 41 and 45.
Is it 41? Because it was 39 and 42. Yeah.
So here's my thing. For the Apple Watch, for real, I mean this sincerely, other than better battery life, faster processor, and maybe a bigger screen in some scenarios, is there, like, I don't understand people who think that the Series Watch needs to be redesigned. Like, I don't get that. Like, it is, in my mind, it's the right form factor for that device, right? It just really is. And I know that you could have argued that about like the wedge-shaped MacBook Air, and then the M2 MacBook Air is arguably like a better design. That's fine, but you have a lot more room to make changes on a laptop than you do on a watch. I don't know. Some people, it feels like a lot of people just want these things to change for the sake of them. I heard somebody like, well, they definitely need to change the way the bands attach to the body. Like, why? It's literally the best.
It's so
I
good.
have a lot of watches, and all of them are terrible to change the bands, except for the Apple Watch. It is the single greatest innovation in watch banding in history. And people are like, no, they need to change it. Well, why? Because it's logical that they have to change it eventually. I'm like,
no.
Wait, please don't. Please
don't,
never.
no.
I can understand if they changed the width, the lug size, so you had to buy new.
Sure.
Your bands were not compatible, but don't change the magnetic way that they attach.
Yeah.
Please. So.
Yeah, and that is, at least according to Mac Rumors, one of the things that might change is the band connection. I feel like they're going to rock with the same thing. I mean, to break compatibility with almost 10 years of Apple Watch bands, not that they're opposed to it. They've changed charging ports before, but I feel like Apple Watch bands is a little different. I mean, they've sold so many. I mean, people have so many, not that people have a lot of bands, but there's just been a lot of bands sold over the last 10
And you
years.
can use Apple Watch Ultra bands on Apple Watch Series, and you can use them the other way around. It's like, they made a lot of effort to make these things universal as much. I mean, it looks pretty stupid if you take an Apple Watch Ultra band and put it on your Series because it's a little bit big, but they'll fit. It works. It's the same mechanics. So.
Yeah. So we'll see. I don't think we're going to see Mac stuff on Monday. I think there's going to be either press releases or maybe another event in October, maybe even November. I think it's just iPhone in this order: AirPods, Apple Watch, iPhone. And that's the event. Maybe Apple Watch, AirPods, iPhone. I'm not sure. But I think that's probably the whole event, because they're going to spend a whole time on iPhone 16 specifically, talk about Apple Intelligence a bunch there, and then they'll go into the iPhone 16 Pro at the end of the event. Usually that's the last thing, and they'll talk about whatever. Maybe we'll see, whatever, HomePod Mini, Apple TV, AirPods Max, but I'm not convinced. We've not seen any kind of like renders or rumors really. People want refreshed versions of the AirPod Max, but I don't think
that's never going to happen. You can buy the Beats Pro whatever thing it is, because that's basically your updated AirPods Max.
It's sad. But anyway, event is 1 p.m. Eastern on Monday. We'll be doing a recap episode that evening. Live stream, 5 p.m. Eastern. We'd love to have you join us. Look in the show notes for links and also in the community. And don't worry, I'll be posting on social media as well. All that. We have to lightning around the rest of the stuff, Jason.
Let's do it.
There's a bunch of the news. Apple Sports live activities. I don't know sports ball. So are you going to use this?
I have opened the Apple Sports app twice, and it was like when I installed it and one other time. And then I realized you couldn't follow the Olympics in the Apple Sports app. And I thought, what is even the point of this? I know that Eddie Q really likes this app. I don't know why. Maybe now that the NFL season has started, I'll open it occasionally, but I don't know that this is solving the problem that Apple hoped it would be solving, because it is so based on, like, they've had to make all these individual deals to get all this data, and apparently it's fast, right? Like, that's the thing but here's the thing: there's only one sport that matters, and it's basketball, because the score changes basically every 40 seconds in a basketball game. In a football game, it doesn't change that fast. So whatever, if it's a 4-minute old score, probably it's still accurate. So and in soccer, they score maybe twice a game. It's like it's not urgent.
Here's my problem. I just opened the sports app here on my phone. Okay. And I'm no longer following any teams.
And you can't do anything.
Because I kept seeing the notifications on my Apple TV when games were starting, or a game is in overtime, or the game is tied up. I'm seeing all the notifications. And the only way I knew to get rid of it for good is to just unfollow the teams, which I had to do in Apple News, which this whole process is ridiculous. So I unfollowed them in Apple News. And
you can't do anything in the app. There's literally nothing. You can't even look up, like, what are the games today? Why does it force you to follow? I'm sorry. We don't have enough time left in this podcast.
It is reasonable. Like, I would honestly, I do not watch sports ball. I care little, but sometimes I want to talk to other human beings, and 99% of the time, other human beings want to talk about sports.
Right.
And so sometimes I'll be like, oh yeah, the Rays. Huh? And like, this could help me, give me a little data, but I can't just follow the Rays in the sports app and not see notifications on my Apple TV, not see all this other stuff. So, like, please, let's uncouple those things, and it would be a little more useful. But
yeah, so you knew the baseball team. I just, real quickly, do you know the other sports teams in Tampa?
Are you kidding? Listen, you got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you got the Tampa Bay Lightning for the hockey, the Tampa Bay Rays for baseball. You have you have the Orlando Magic for basketball. I don't think there's a Tampa one.
Which are not in Tampa.
And I still remember a Final Jeopardy question that I saw like 20 years ago. And the Final Jeopardy question was, what 3 NBA teams do not end in S? Can you think, Jason? What 3 NBA teams do not end in S?
Yeah, this has been around for a while.
Okay,
this is like one of the. I mean, the Magic is one of them, obviously.
The Magic is one. Yes, that's right.
I have to think about it. We don't have this much time. I'll think about it while you're talking. Okay.
The Magic, the Heat.
But I won't think about it.
No, this is the one time that I can actually exude sports knowledge, and there'll never again be a chance. The Miami Heat, the Orlando Magic, and the Utah Jazz.
Okay, there you go.
Those are the 3 teams that do not end in S. That's it. I don't know why that final it lives in my head rent free for years, but I know that about sports ball.
All right.
There you go. Nvidia, they lost a bunch of money, or at least wiped out.
Well, they didn't lose any money. Their stock price, their market value, was the largest wipeout in the history of the stock market in total total amount.
The reason the $279 billion wipeout because of the drop in stocks. Now, this again, Nvidia's stock has been on a tear because of the GPU chips and the rise of AI. Although this drop is supposedly because a Bloomberg report said that the company received a subpoena from the Department of Justice as part of an antitrust investigation. So it does not seem to allude that it was something about AI or companies not buying as many chips. It was because of this report, which every time I see like a huge stock change due to a Bloomberg report, I think back of all that I've heard about the Bloomberg terminal, and I just think it just seems, I don't know. Bloomberg writers being incentivized. Anyway, I don't know.
So there was 2 things. The first one was there was sort of just a general like the Dow went down like 600 points that day or something like that. So
Sure.
there was like stocks were going lower anyway, and Nvidia just proportionally went down a lot. And some of it is about this kind of apprehension about what the future trajectory of AI is going to be. And we know that companies like Microsoft have said they're going to spend like $20 billion on GPUs or whatever. But the question is like, will they keep buying them from Nvidia? And then there was a separate thing that happened at the same time, basically, where the DOJ, it's a little bit confusing because at first the reporting was that the DOJ had issued a subpoena, and then Nvidia said that they had not been issued a subpoena yet, that they're just talking to the DOJ. But the thing is, like, the DOJ is essentially investigating or considering opening an investigation. I'm trying to like be careful because like it's a little bit fuzzy what's actually happening here. But they are looking at Nvidia and looking at whether they are committing antitrust violations and being anti-competitive because of the dominance that they have in this market. And it's essentially punishing Nvidia for its foresight and its strategy from a few years ago, because like this is not a new strategy, right? And because Nvidia does a lot of things to create lock-in. You know, they have the CUDA like framework or whatever. I said a word, I don't actually know what it means, but it has to do with like the way you can build software to run on its GPUs. Let's just put it that way. And so the DOJ, Ben Thompson had a really interesting take. He writes the Stratechery newsletter, and it was basically like the DOJ essentially is wrong. They are trying to punish Nvidia for winning. And it's just like, is that really what we want to do to the incentive structure here? Is like, if you win, we'll come after you because you won. Imagine if every time there's a sports ball game, the team that won got investigated because they were anti-competitive. Now, there's a difference between cheating.
They were literally competing
and beating your opponents, right? I mean, like, listen, the whole the U of M sign stealing. Where they were sending the guy and he was like stealing. Cheating is bad. Or better, more recent example was the coach of the Canada women's national team was basically fired because they were flying drones over the other team's practices. Yeah, you can't do that. But Nvidia was not flying drones over AMD's headquarters looking at, like, they just won. And so it's, but it does, the other piece of it, the sort of the global sell-off piece that originally kind of like hit their stock does just make me wonder, like, are we at like peak AI right now? And will we be like, where does it go from here? And I don't think AI is going anywhere, but I do think like there's going to become a point where the mass buildup of this sort of AI bubble, it's either going to like pop, or I don't know what the other option is, but it does seem like we may have reached that peak. I don't know. We'll see.
So it's a curious question. Like, is the AI bubble about to pop? Because the other news I really wanted to cover was there's going to be a special on TV hosted by Oprah Winfrey about AI. And so this special is happening September 12th. So what day is that? That's Thursday, the Thursday before iPhone pre-orders possibly. And she's going to host this special on ABC talking about AI and the future of us. That's the title of the TV special. She's going to have special guests like Bill Gates, Sam Altman, and MKBHD, which MKBHD posted a selfie with Oprah a few days ago, and it was very curious, like, what is this mashup here? Well, it was because he's going to be on this television special. They must have been filming it. Now, the reactions to this special have been curious. There's a bunch of people saying mad about it because having someone like Oprah be like the host of this kind of show who's not in the tech industry or whatever, like, people are against that idea. And also that it might just be a promotion of AI special rather than really talking about the dangers. Supposedly MKBHD is going to be doing some demos for Oprah to show like the amazing things that AI is capable of. And if you look at the guests, obviously Sam Altman is going to spin AI in a very positive light, as he is the CEO of OpenAI. And I would think even Bill Gates, you know, he's not at Microsoft anymore, but I imagine maybe he'll talk about the dangers. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like this special is going to be focusing on that part. And so there's a lot of critics saying, you know, we need more of that side of the argument as well. I'm 100% going to watch this because I think it's going to be fascinating. But as you talked about a bubble of AI, I mean, so much in the tech bubble is in the bubble. You know, there's not a ton of news about whatever. random tech things that we talk about, even on this podcast. Like, it just doesn't hit quote unquote mainstream very often. You're not going to hear Bluetooth 6 on ABC News tonight, is like that kind of stuff. But for someone like Oprah, like if you look at the landscape of celebrities, at least here in the US, like Oprah is like one of the top names as far as most well-known, huge audience. When you're looking at audience size, like you're talking about maybe even hundreds of millions of people. So the fact that AI has now hit the level that Oprah Winfrey is covering it in a TV special, I think does lend credence that like AI is now mainstream. Like, it is enough a part of the conversation that ABC has warranted a TV special. That's an interesting point. And then seeing how it is painted, like it's not come out. Like, we need to watch September 12th. We'll see how they actually paint AI, what they talk about. But I think it'll be interesting to see like what is the excitement versus fear versus timbre of the conversation, because however it is framed in that special, not saying it's going to decide the trajectory of AI, but it will shape people's thoughts about it, like normal people's thoughts. Because right now, most people might have heard about ChatGPT, but even like I was at the Podcast Movement Conference a couple weeks ago, and a vast majority of people still do not use AI tools like in their workflow. They don't know like what to do with it. They're not sure what it does. And so there is still a lot of unknown. And this TV special and then whatever news coverage after it has the potential of making AI more of a household conversation and topic. So I'm just very curious how it's going to be framed in the TV special, and whether or not it's a bubble. I think, this moment, not just this TV special, but this moment, I think, might have a lot to do with that direction. And to think about, like, OpenAI is still not a publicly traded company. And, like, the moment that happens, like, that might be a Pandora's box. Like, who knows, once there's so many people invested in it. But I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think that if you want to mainstream something, you get Oprah involved. Right? I mean,
right, exactly.
No matter, like, even though, I mean, she had a television show for a very long time, at least what she's known for, but she still has the ability to command, as you mentioned, an enormous audience. And for whatever people might think of Oprah, she does have she's very good at doing the thing that you and I kind of talk about wanting to do, which is like making it make sense for people who don't always pay attention to, like, who are not reading Sam Altman's tweets all day long, right? Like
and just to that point, have you ever seen the older clips of Oprah, like way back in the day, going to like southern states and asking pointed questions and all that? Like, she's actually very intelligent, and she has had some amazing like pointed interviews and questions. Like, she's sharp. So I just want to
absolutely. And so she's certainly the type of person who can be on the same level as someone like Sam Altman or Bill Gates or whoever and stuff like that. I do think the whole thing is interesting. I mean, I just was looking this morning, and Bill Gates has given at least 3 interviews that all published today about a documentary series that he's doing on Netflix and talking about AI and all this stuff. So like, there's definitely a push that people, if the concern that people have is that this is just sort of a front for putting a positive spin on AI and all the players involved are the people who will benefit from that. Like, I think that's a reasonable question to ask. I'm not certainly going to make that accusation. I just think it's a reasonable thing to ask whether that's the case. But at the same time, like, whether that happens or whether that's true or not, it does not change the fact that the trajectory of this is it's going to impact all of our lives. And I think that there are ways that it can be super, super useful for people. People don't understand it all, especially, let's be honest, if you use an iPhone, unless you download like the ChatGPT app and know how to use it, like, you haven't had this as a part of your daily experience of using technology, because Apple has been behind. Whereas if you're using a Pixel, maybe that's been different, because you can activate Gemini or whatever it might be. I think it's a thing that people are going to start. It's like rising up in the public consciousness, and it's not just like a techie thing. And I use ChatGPT, the app on my Mac, almost every day.
Same.
For things that I know that Google's terrible at, or for things that I just know will save me time. Like, there'll be times when I have to take an interview with someone and I'm just like, what did this, like, tell me what this thing said. Or I can, Otter, I think I mentioned this before, but like Otter AI, like it transcribes I use it for every single interview I do. And I just opened it up and I noticed they have a chat feature now. And I just typed into that chat, what did the person say about this product that failed? And it just It searches all my transcripts
Right
and pops it up. And then it also tells me, and by the way, this also appeared in this other place. It would have taken me hours to do that. I would have actually just given up. I would have never done it. But I can just have it. It is I think for a lot of people, it's going to be the thing that it's like having a super smart. I mean, it's still pretty stupid, but it has the potential of being a super smart person that understands what you want and can instantly do the work that would take that human a long time to go through old transcripts or whatever. And so I don't know. I think it's really interesting that Oprah seems like but who would you have had do these interviews? I mean, you could have had MKBHD, who has a very big audience. All respect to him. He is not Oprah. Like he's not the mainstream like face of making things making things normal for people. So
I'm trying to think of like the news people, like straight news. I don't know if Charlie Rose is even like interviewing people anymore, but I think of who's like big name news that you see like.
Well, while you're thinking about that though, have you seen the Charlie Rose interview with Tim Cook when he was at Apple Park? Yeah, no. Charlie Rose doesn't understand. Like, again, great journalist, but he doesn't understand technology. And I don't know how much technology Oprah understands because I've not heard her talk about it. But like you said, she's incredibly sharp and can play that role of the person who doesn't fully understand and just ask the questions. Like, but what if this destroys us? Right? Like that question sounds different coming from Oprah than it does from, Lester Holt.
I literally just found Lester Holt's name. Like that's who I was thinking of, is someone like Lester Holt in a more like journalistic sense, investigating AI, because Oprah is not an investigative journalist. She is a TV personality with a huge audience who's very smart, does investigation, like ask her questions. But I would think in the public's eye, if you see a TV special with Oprah Winfrey, you're not thinking this is an investigative news report.
Sure.
You're thinking, this is just a presentation, TV special. So again, an interesting choice, Oprah. And I just realized the timeline, as you're saying, Apple Intelligence, if it's coming to all the iPhones this year, and this interview is on the 13th, this TV special is on the 12th, Thursday, and pre-orders for the iPhone that all has Apple Intelligence is the next day. You have this TV special on the 12th, pre-orders likely on the 13th, the phone's launching in the next week. And again, if any other name besides Oprah can bring something mainstream, it's the iPhone. It's Apple.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Apple is bringing Apple Intelligence likely to the entire iPhone 16 lineup. And so is it a bubble or not? I think this is a moment. Like this is just a moment in the story about AI and how we all interact with it that it's going to change probably, at least for mainstream, like people, not just us here in the tech sphere. So it's interesting.
Yeah. That is,
interesting. There were other news. I don't know if we can get to it. I mean, X is banned.
We'll have to save some of this stuff. Yeah,
we'll save it. I thought it was interesting, and then the Telegram CEO getting arrested in France. I mean, so much happening.
And I do sometime want to talk about the ridiculousness of this stupid browser shenanigans in the EU.
The
only thing I want to say about the only thing I want to say about it is if they had to change the policy. So the EU required Apple to put up a browser choice screen, and they're making them redo it. And if you previously chose Safari, you have to choose again. But if you chose any other browser, you don't have to choose again. I'm sorry, but like, when are we going to just shut down the EU? Can we vote on that? Can we just vote shut down the EU?
Oh no! I mean, I was listening to, was it the Vergecast that they were talking about this? I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about this, and it did seem like incredibly asinine what was going to
so terrible.
This, basically, and then every time there's a software update or whatever, like iOS 18, you're gonna have to like re-choose your default.
Or every time you set up a new device. But Stephen, only if you choose Safari. If you choose any other browser, that preference will stick. It's like they're so concerned that people are being coerced into using Safari, which is like, it is the best mobile browser because it's been basically the only one, and that's fine. But like, it is so stupid.
Well, the one thing I heard on, I think it was the Vergecast, is one of the browser choices that's available in a lot of these countries, which I'll put a link to the support article in the show notes. Why not? Is the Onion browser Mike Tigas. That's like the name of the browser, like Onion Browser, comma Mike Tigas.
Well, that's the developer. Mike Tigas is the developer.
I know, but his name is in
the
name of the browser. Like you would see that in the browser choice.
Microsoft, Mozilla, Mike Tigas.
Kudos to Mike Tigas for the branding exposure, but also it is apparently like a dark web browser, like a Tor browser.
A
Tor browser, and it's like. What kind of foolishness has to happen for you to have a Tor web browser? And again, like if the list is randomized every time someone sees the screen, supposedly, and so there are like just law of averages and numbers, there's going to be many people who see Onion Browser, comma Mike Tigas as the top browser choice on their iPhone when they update it. And it's like, what?
And if you choose that, the new rule is that it has to replace Safari. So wherever you had the Safari icon, it shows up now. And how are you going to get Safari back?
That seems hostile, like user hostile behavior.
Steven, everything about this is user hostile. Everything about this is user hostile behavior. The EU, I'm sorry for our European listeners, but can you just agree with me that we love you. I'm sorry, but your government is like not good at designing tech products, and they should stop because this is so user hostile.
This is not good. This is not a good user experience. This is not, dare I say, like safe. Like, to have a Tor browser as your default, that literally your home screen will change if you choose something besides Safari. Like without your action. Like wherever you put Safari, whether it was in the dock or on your main home screen, that icon gets replaced by whatever browser default you choose on this screen, which could be Onion Browser, comma Mike Tigas. And that, I mean, you're on.
And if you think that's bad, if you just choose Safari because you're like, nope, that's the browser. It's just going to keep asking you. It's going to assume you're an idiot and you didn't mean to keep using the best mobile web browser, and it's just going to keep asking you, are you sure you don't want to use Mike Tigas' browser? Please, are you sure? Like.
And also, to be clear, in the EU, which is different than here in the US, these different browsers can also have different browser engines under the hood.
Yes.
Here in the US, if you download Chrome or Brave on your iPhone, it's still running WebKit, which is the browser engine for Safari. But in the EU, it's actually different browser engines underneath the hood. So you're not just choosing the wrapper of WebKit. Like you're choosing the underneath browser engine, which I assume Apple is. Well, I don't know. I mean, that it's not nefarious. This is an approved list of browsers, but still, like, it just seems.
It is just ridiculous, and I'm sorry, but I just had to, like, we couldn't go any longer without just saying that this is just because the only company that benefits from this is Google. Like, it's fine. That's you're going to choose Safari or Chrome. You're not. Sorry, Mike Tigas. Kudos to you. I don't know anyone else who's gotten their name on a settings screen and an iPhone. Like, that's impressive.
That's impressive.
But nobody's choosing as their default.
No. And honestly, I mean, brand crossover. If I saw the Onion Browser, I think I'm all going to see is satirical news.
It automatically changes the headline of every article you look at to some kind of satire. Yep.
Now, honestly, I would use that browser. I would want to purposely when I choose. But yeah, that'd be funny. All right, before we get to our bonus episode, I do want to talk about my Pixel review because I had the Pixel 9 Pro XL for a week. I made a video about it, and you can watch it now. When I got this phone, Jason, I was like, that was the last Android phone I had serious experience with, the HTC Hero on Sprint. I don't know if you remember that phone, but it was not.
I do not. No. Okay.
No, there it is, HTC Hero on Sprint. I used that phone legitimately for a couple of years, and that was, it was fine. But anyway, so I reviewed the Pixel 9 Pro. Listen, here's the thing. I intended for the video to be, I gave up my iPhone for a week and went all in on the Pixel. And I think it was about 15 minutes into that experiment, my son sent me a text, which I saw on my watch. Hey, I sent a screen time request. And I was like, okay, I actually can't do this. Because in order to try and move to an Android device, for me personally, I would need all my kids to be on devices that I can do screen time requests, which if they had Android devices, there is Family Link. It is an inferior parental control feature. But I could do that, but I can't do screen time requests on an Android phone.
It's real hard to be inferior to screen time, so that is a deep cut right
It
there.
is. Because I've literally done it. I've set up Family Link because there was an old Android phone one of my kids wanted to use, and I was like, what are the controls on here? Turns out, not as good as Screen Time. Honestly, for all the bugs in Screen Time has, Family Link is not a robust product. So I was like, okay, well, I can't approve Screen Time requests on my Android phone. I can't control any of my smart home products unless I fully upend that entire system, which is typically hanging by a thread anyway, because accessories will randomly stop responding. So I can't control any of my smart home.
Hanging by a thread. Hanging by a thread.
I didn't even. Thread is a.
I'm sorry for interrupting you, but that was just
that
too
was
good
great.
to let pass by.
That's a great pun. I didn't even think about it. So I can't control any of my smart home devices. I can't control any of my Apple TVs from my Android phone. I'm missing AirDrop. I'm missing Universal Clipboard. I'm missing MagSafe. You can wirelessly charge a Pixel 9 and Pixel 9 Pro, but it doesn't use MagSafe. So all the actual pucks that are suspended in the air that I have in my house won't stick to any of those. So much of the ecosystem just does not carry over. And so I could not put my iPhone in a drawer for a week and just use the Pixel 9. I basically had to double fist the phones. So I was trying to use one each. But also, the moment I tried to, I put a bunch of apps that I already use, like Pocket Casts, AnyList for groceries, 1Password, Amazon, all of that works great. And the hardware of the Pixel 9 Pro is great too. Like, camera takes really good pictures, videos, like, so much of that stuff is good, fine. The hardware is really nice. Camera bump is ridiculous. I would argue is more ridiculous than the iPhone camera bump. Very large. But once I went into the realm of notes, tasks, calendars, Spark is there for email, to your point, and I put Spark on the Pixel, and that's a great app experience. But there's so many categories of apps that Android just doesn't have great alternatives to what I use on the iPhone. They have good alternatives, and I shared on Threads. I asked, what's the Note app that everyone uses if you want it to be cross-platform? I got UpNote, Joplin. A lot of people just said, just use Google Keep. So I did that, and you can get the Google Keep app on your iPhone. You can use it on the web on a Mac, and you can use it on your Android phone. It is not a great note-taking app. It's good, and it is fine for most things, but nothing beats Bear for me. Bear is just so good, and all the features, there's just not a good enough equivalent for Bear. Same thing with Things. There's great apps. You have TickTick. I know a lot of people love that as a to-do app. There's just not the equivalent of Things for me on Android. Same thing with Fantastical. There's no Fantastical, obviously, at all, but there's also not really an alternative to Fantastical on Android. And so, aside from the ecosystem lock-in, which is abundantly clear, that was immediately evident, this does not work, just the app story itself is not something that I would not want to have to figure that out. There's just so many more. And what I said in the video is there's a lot of good apps on Android and some great apps, but there's a lot of great apps on iPhone. And I think that's the main distinction. The iPhone App Store, there's just so much more developer energy and support to making great applications for iPhone, iPad, and Mac. And I get it, because a developer can actually deliver to all three of those platforms with a single app now, where on Android it's you can't, Windows, you can put it on there.
Right.
Chrome OS, not really. You can, but no one, it's not popular. No one's using that. It's education and all that kind of stuff, yes, but it's just not the breadth of user base. And so just the app story by itself would preclude me from switching to Android. And last thing I'll say in the video, which I'll say here, if I had to choose Mac and Android phone or Windows and iPhone, I would still choose Mac and Android phone. It would be a pain in the neck. I wouldn't enjoy the experience as much as my iPhone, but I need my Mac to get stuff done. I need Final Cut. I need all the workflows I have on my Mac for my video production. There's some things just edit, just everything on the Mac. I would still prefer, if I had to, the Mac over the iPhone. I would make it work with the Pixel, but just the app story is just not there. So that's my experience.
I lied to you last week. I apologize. Because the Spark does not have a calendar on the Android version. Right. I thought that it did, and I'm sorry. It does on the Mac, but on the Android, it does not have the calendar. Because that would have actually made a difference, I think, for you.
It would make a difference.
It wouldn't necessarily mean you'd switch, but
right.
Spark has a pretty decent calendar app, and it looks nice. So,
but it was just in the ecosystem deal, it was so clear. Oh, and also shortcuts. There is no alternative to that on Android. Samsung has like Bixby routines or whatever, not as robust, nowhere near the same thing. And the Pixel doesn't even have that. And
Right.
so focus modes, like you get one focus mode on Android, and it basically lets you say what apps to send you notifications, and you have no other of the granular controls. Like focus modes on iPhone, you have focus filters, third-party apps can integrate into that, like Fantastical. It's amazing. It's just not there, and I would not prefer to use it. And ecosystem lock-in. That's a real thing. AirTags too. Find My and the AirTag network, like there's not a great alternative to that either. So anyway, that was my experiment. I'll put my video in the show notes if you would like to watch it. And I basically tried another product last week, and then we're going to talk about it in the bonus episode.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's going to be fun. I basically test drove a Tesla. So anyway, we're going to talk about it in the bonus episode. So you can listen to that by going to primarytech.fm, click bonus episodes, and you could support the show there. We'd appreciate your support. You get ad-free versions when we have ads, and you get a bonus episode every week. And you can listen to the whole back catalog there. You can support us directly in Apple Podcasts, and you get the same thing, ad-free episodes and bonus content, access to the whole back catalog. And we would appreciate your support subscribing on YouTube. You can watch us there. You can watch us fumble around with the camera and the imaginary capture button on our iPhones this week if you'd like to see that. And of course, if you leave us a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts, we appreciate it. We're also a 5-star podcast in Spotify and Pocket Casts, because you can leave reviews in all three of those places, and we are a 5-star podcast and all that. So thank you to everyone who has done that. Leave us that 5-star rating and review, and we'll give you a shout out next week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.